What's up guys? In the last video I talked about my impressions of the trailer and my hopes for the story mode of Tekken 7. But one thing I didn't go into detail about was the Unreal Engine 4 announcement. This was by far the most intriguing part of the trailer, even though it only showed up for a couple of seconds. First though, what is a video game engine? Well, a video game engine like Unreal 4 engine is basically the main development tool you use to bring together all of your game assets. So sound, graphics, scripts, etc. to make those pieces become a game. Usually it's made up of multiple smaller engines for graphics, physics, AI, sound, netcode, input handling, etc. Another big feature of engines like UE4 is that it's cross-platform, meaning you build it in one place, typically on a PC, and then you can basically export it for other systems. In practice, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's a lot less complicated than building it for each system from scratch. Now, a lot of people are speculating that this means it is only for next-gen consoles and or a PC release. Now, while this may be the case, Unreal Engine 4 can scale back to older consoles. It's all up to the developers and their budget, because obviously to support last-gen consoles like the PS3 and Xbox 360, they're going to have to spend time scaling back art resources, etc., and spending a lot of resources making sure it still runs smoothly. Spending the time to do this could take away from resources better used on making the game itself better on the next-gen platforms. Prior to this, Namco has used a proprietary engine for Tekken. They had added the Havoc physics engine in as well, but as far as I've read, Havoc is mainly used for physics calculations in like the cloth of the clothing and also for hair. You know, you see the hair swishing in the wind, etc. Now, one thing to note is that the Namco proprietary engine had never really been seen on PC, while the Unreal Engine could easily allow a PC port to be made, big if, Namco decides to do so. Note that while most Xbox One titles and PS4 titles are developed on PC, a lot are not released on the PC. Killer Instinct being a prime example here. It's been on Xbox One, it was developed on a PC, but it never came to PC. Now, an important thing to note about this engine switch is that it will most likely bring about some change in how the core gameplay feels. Quake 3 was my favorite first-person arena shooter, and when they transitioned to a new engine for Quake 4, I was extremely excited for it. But while that game maintained the Quake style of play, it didn't feel like Quake 3 anymore. It felt a little bit more sluggish, and the jumps just didn't feel quite right. And id Software eventually tried to patch the multiplayer multiple times to try and get it closer to the Quake 3 feel of the game, but it never really quite felt right. And this was from one generation of the same engine to the next, not even a completely different engine as is the case here. Now, one of the things I read about that specifically was that the player height in Quake 4 was slightly taller, and that caused a change in the feel of the jumps, etc. So why am I telling you so much about Quake? Well, if I were in Namco's shoes, knowing that we are making an engine switch, then I would already be expecting there to be some change in the feel of the game. And with that expectation, I would then intentionally go about changing the feel of the game. So to me, that's very exciting, as it could potentially give us a new feel to Tekken in general. How much of that would be because of the engine and how much of that would be because of the developer's intentions, we'll never really know. Regardless though, it should be very interesting. Feel of the game aside though, Unreal Engine 4 will obviously up the graphics yet again. Tekken Tag 2 to Tekken 6 wasn't that big of a jump since they had to manage twice as many characters on screen at the same time, but now we should see a nice bump in visuals again with lots of particle effects. That's my big guess, because I think Unreal Engine 4 can handle millions on the screen at the same time, so I expect to see a lot of particles. The netcode in Tekken Tag 2 is amazing, and I hope they don't have much issue in bringing that over. The other gameplay elements I'm interested in with the engine switch are going to be the camera system and the hitbox/crush system, since they may be handled slightly differently here as well. Since I'm not really a fan of Tekken Tag 2's camera and hitboxes, especially at the wall, and especially the mid-crushes in the game, I'm really hoping that gets overhauled. So that's all I've got for you guys on the Unreal Engine switch. I personally am really hoping for a potential PC release because I've been needing an excuse to get a new graphics card anyway, so sounds like a good time. Yeah, so we should be getting more information about the game at Comic-Con tomorrow at noon Pacific Standard Time. I believe it's going to be on Team Spooky's streaming channel. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's probably where it's going to be. So until then, be sure to subscribe to this channel because I'll definitely be doing more Tekken 7 coverage in the future. Catch you guys next time.